Yeah, we'll have to talk about next week. Probably the biggest fight for a British fighter since yourself.
Yeah.
With Michael Bisping. What do you think of that fight itself? Are you happy for Bisping getting the title shot?
Most definitely, yeah. It's I can't say it's overdue because if he'd got a title shot in the past, it would have been because it was meant to be, and he's just fallen short every time. And I'm glad that there's been a turn of a circumstance in which he can get that shot, even if it's last minute. And the interviews that I've heard of him, I actually spoke to him last week. We were recording a show, and he's got a very interesting perspective on it. Normally when he gets this phase of training camp, he's overtrained and he's tired, whereas he's been distracted. He's been doing movies and stuff. So Michael's not the kind of guy that ever gets out of shape. He's a phenomenal athlete. His conditioning's always on point. So he gets back in the gym and his body's fresh and he's healthy. He's got 2 weeks to prepare for a fight without all the stress that he's been carrying for 10 weeks in advance. And one other thing I will mention about it is he mentioned something in an interview about going back to an old style of fighting that he used to have, the animalistic style of fighting. And I shared a few Cage Warriors cards with Bisping back in the day, and he was a monster. I talk about Vanderlei Silva as a natural-born fighter. I say the same thing about Michael Bisping, and I don't say that about many people. Lee Murray, probably the other guy I would say from the UK. Michael Bisping is born to fight, and he just finds ways to win. So in an opportunity like this, if there's a fraction of a chance of him catching Luke Rockhold on the chin, he's going to do it. And I know he's up against it. I know the odds are stacked against him. And 8 times out of 10, I think Luke Rockhold wins. But there's always that 2 times out of 10, that mixed martial arts coin flip.
And what do you think Michael has to do what's his path to victory here? What do you think the game plan should be for Bisping in this one?
Well, the Michael Bisping that fought Luke Rockhold in Sydney a couple of years ago was very different to the Michael Bisping that we saw against CB Dollaway, against Talis Latis, and definitely against Anderson Silva. It seemed almost like Rockhold had got in his head a little bit, saying he was going to stop him in the first round. Because if you watch the early combinations that Bisping throws, they all fall short. And Rockhold does fight long, he does fight very relaxed. So when Bisping's covering that distance and missing, you've got to think that there's it's affecting his confidence in some way. So then there was the clash of heads that followed that, and he just never got back into his game. Whereas his last 3 fights, he's been aggressive, he's been confident, and he didn't give Anderson Silva any respect in that fight. He was crowding him against the fence and teeing off. So if that Michael Bisping shows up and puts that pressure on early, he could definitely win the first round, and that's a good start. I mean, Rockhold lost the first round to Weidman because of the pressure he was under.